Hi, everyone. I am Megan Bachman, Board President of the Survival Swim Development Network, and we are here today with Nicole Hughes. Thank you so much for being with us. We love Nicole. The Survival Swim Network admires her as a mama on a mission, and our goal today is to shed some light on the number one risk of our children, which is drowning. So can you share a little bit about your story with us? And then we've got a few things that we want to share, kind of mom to mom type conversation. What would you want other moms to know?
Yes. Thank you, Megan. And I do appreciate your friendship and just the support and insight and encouragement from all of everyone in your organization. It's been greatly appreciated. Um, as a parent, so my name is Nicole Hughes, and as we have 5 children, and as a parent, I'm a teacher, my husband's a physician. There's so much to worry about when everything, you could just spend, and a lot of us do spend our lives in constant worry about things that to keep our kids safe. And I know that, I'm no different, in that. And we had in 2018, we had 2 daughters at this point and a son, and our daughters were 9 and 5, and our son was 3. And, they were in the best car seats. I fed them, organic food. I worried about the chemical in sunscreen that, possibly caused cancer. I wouldn't let them eat in the car in case they choked. I was worrying about everything that, quite frankly, the news and parenting articles told me to worry about. And had no idea that drowning was the number one risk by significant numbers to my 1 to 4-year-old. Specifically, my son Levi was 3, and we even went for his 3-year checkup in April. And they were more concerned about how many ounces of milk he was drinking, if he could stand on 1 foot. And I loved our pediatrician, so it wasn't like their fault, but it was just, why was this never mentioned? But we were, and I just want to acknowledge, thank you for people who are listening and who are here. And because I know that it isn't always easy, but, to listen to this. Can you hear my dog barking?
Yes. Okay. That's the real mom life right there.
Okay. So I'm so sorry. I'm in the basement and my kids are upstairs and the dog is barking, my older ones. So just a normal family here. And sometimes I'm grateful when things like this happen, when I'm trying to share the story, because it does keep me in the present too. So I'm not so, because it's sad. It is sad. Sit in the sadness with me, honestly, for a second. Our 3-year-old son, we go on a beach trip every year with my husband's a physician. And so with these 5 other families that we met during residency, and we traveled to the beach the same week every year. And we had stayed in the same house for 7 years. Twice as long as Levi had been alive at this point. He was 3. And we all day, he was wearing a puddle jumper, life jacket. I have 16 pictures of him from what would be his final day of life. And in 14, he is wearing a puddle jumper or a life jacket. And we genuinely thought we were doing everything right. Of course I knew kids could drown. I thought they drowned, quite frankly, when neglectful parents weren't watching them when they were swimming. I just assumed real kids whose parents loved them didn't drown. It's what I thought. And I thought, well, we always watch our kids when we're swimming. Who doesn't watch their kids when they're swimming? And like I said, I wouldn't even let him out of the living room of the beach house until I made sure his puddle jumper was on. I thought I was doing everything right. So later that evening, it was about 6, and we'd come in, he'd already had a bath. We were just waiting for it to get dark because the dads always take the kids crab hunting. And this was the first year, it was a Sunday night, June 10th. It was our first full night there. And it was the first time that Levi really was old enough to understand. And he was so excited to go crab hunting. They all had these matching yellow crab hunting shirts. And he just couldn't wait. And he was sitting on the couch, and the TV was on. It was America's Funniest Home Videos. I remember they were all laughing at this raccoon on the TV, full of kids. There were 12 adults. We were all in this one house. There were 12 adults in the kitchen. all the kids in there and running around, just being kids, like after dinner. And the pool was down, out heavy doors, down a flight of stairs, and I mean, it wasn't even in our line of vision. I mean, he was wearing khaki shorts, and we were just cleaning up from dinner. I mean, he was 3 years old, and cleaning up from dinner, he was right there. And I split a brownie with him, like just gave him this part of a brownie, and put half of it in his bowl. And in fact, I remember thinking all he has had is sugar today, ring pops and fun dip and popsicles. And I was like, well, whatever. What's one more brownie? And so I put it in his bowl and I ruffled his hair, and and I'm so grateful that it was this sweet, just genuine little moment between us, honestly. Um, and then I walked away. I mean, not away. I walked from the couch to the trash can in the same room, and I threw the chips away, put the other little piece of the brownie in my mouth, um, threw something else away, and then, I mean, it was so quick. I walked on the balcony. We didn't even know he was missing. Like all the kids were just running around, jumping on the couch. It didn't even cross my mind that he would have left on his own. Like I don't even know how he got out the door. So I wasn't like looking for him. It was so quick. I had just given him the brownie. I had not even finished eating my part of the brownie. I mean, that's how fast this was. This was not like a lapse of time. And I walked out the back door and looked over. I was just checking to see if it had stopped raining. Cause we were going to go crab hunting. And when in doing so, when I just looked over the balcony to check on the weather, I noticed, I believe I was in the pool. He was in the deep end of the pool. And, my first thought was confusion, honestly. I mean, I thought, well, no, he's on the couch. He's on the couch. Like we weren't even swimming. And then I immediately reacted. Obviously, I banged on the doors and ran sprinting down the stairs and jumped in to grab him. And I don't know how I did it. I don't know. Like, how do you even like make that decision to not just collapse right there? But when I grabbed him, someone else grabbed his other arm, and I didn't know who it was at the time. And I just know that I wasn't alone and that someone helped me lift him out of the water onto the side of the pool. And it turns out later, I kept saying, who was it? Who was in the water with me? And it was one of our friends, the first one out, the one closest to the door when I banged on it, had seen him, had looked over the balcony, had seen him, and had jumped off into the water to help me get him. I know. And it was so quick that when my husband got out there, he was the first one to reach him. He didn't know. We all thought it was, I mean, I knew who it was, obviously, but we were all so disoriented. My husband didn't even know who it was until he flipped him over, because our kids weren't swimming. It wasn't any of our kids. And he flipped him over. And he's a physician. We were there with, it was 6 anesthesiologists. And, so he had immediate medical attention, CPR. They even had an airway kit. In fact, when the ambulance arrived, the paramedics stepped out, took one look at what was going on, heard they were cardiothoracic anesthesiologists, and said, we're just going to stand over here. I mean, we had the best possible immediate attention, and it didn't matter. He was airlifted, and we lost him that night. And it's sad. It's sad. I mean, there's really no but or no like it's okay or it just sucks. And I know it sucks. And it's hard for people to listen to this because we just don't want to imagine this could be us. Like we just want to worry about the things that we know we can control, or we want to imagine that these things only happen to other people. So I think it takes a lot of bravery for anyone who's listening this far. So thank you, to that. And for being willing to say, okay, I hear you. I believe you. What message are you trying to tell that you have learned? Because, that's what there was just so much we didn't know. I mean, we always put the toys out of the pool, but it had started raining that day. So we all got out of the pool really quickly that afternoon because it was lightning, and we didn't take the toys out. And so we think that maybe he was reaching for a toy. There were a lot of toys around him. He had worn a puddle jumper all day. I had told him, parents want to tell me all the time, well, I tell my kid not to go near the water. And to which that is awesome. So I would love to know all of your advice on all the things that you tell your kids to do that they don't do. I told Levi over and over and over and over. And in fact, I don't think he jumped in. I mean, he was very social. He would have not wanted to swim alone. I think he was reaching for a toy and just thought he would have jumped back, bounced right back up. He had no idea that water was dangerous. Because he always wore a puddle jumper, and all he knew was that he would, bob and float. But I told him, even just that day, I told him, we walked past the pool and I said, do you ever go near the water alone? And what I told him for his little 3-year-old mind to understand, and he repeated back to me, he said, no, I never go in the water without you, because if I do, then we won't see each other again. And that will be very sad. So I do believe he listened to me, and he did not. I know why would he have wanted to swim alone when he always used to swim with his sisters? There's so much to this and that has happened. And, we've since gone on to have 2 other babies that would quite frankly not have been here. My husband had a vasectomy, so he had to have it reversed. But, and so we have a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old, and they have both taken survival swim lessons. I'd never heard of that before. And, I do want to be clear that I have no agenda. I don't work for any survival swim company. I have nothing. I have no investment. I don't own stock. I don't own a company. I mean, this is not a paid commercial. There is no agenda. And I think that to me is the strongest point, is if so many parents who have lost a child to drowning, which is unfortunately so many, and it's the same, way every time, not swimming, they reach water alone. They thought water was fun. They didn't know how to survive in water. We're all saying the same thing, and none of us are being paid to say this. I mean, this is just genuinely us saying, we are telling you that this would have saved our child, would have at least given them a fighting chance, would have at least taught me more about water safety than I knew from, what the articles told me that were all incorrect. And for me to hand Levi's little sister and little brother to these survival swim instructors and say, I trust you. I trust in this process. He should have been able to swim. I mean, he should have been swimming. He was 3, and he should have known. He should have easily been able to get on his back and float and reach the side. I mean, there's no way around it, honestly. But anyway, that was a lot. So
that's great. Thank you for sharing heart to heart. And I think for the Survival Swim Network, we are a bunch of parents who have decided to make a career out of helping kids learn to have true survival skills in a gentle way. And but also being a mom of 2 little boys, your story has always, and I've heard your story a few times, and just the way that you talked about, half of the brownie was still in your mouth, that you had just split with him when you found him. That's something that, as a mom, just is eye-opening, that this can happen to anyone, and it happens faster than you would ever think. And it was at a time that no one was swimming. And I've just, I appreciate you being willing to share the heartache, because I think that, like you said, moms all day long, we're thinking about how to keep our kids safe.
It's just,
the number one topic of conversation right now is COVID. And when we go to our pediatricians, the things that we're talking about with our pediatricians are choking and screen time and car seats. And
I think that, I'm sorry, all of that matters. I think that the problem becomes when we only have a certain amount of space, right? So we just have to make sure that the percentages are allocated in the right areas of what we need to worry about. And I think where I went wrong is I just believed, who knows what they're doing when they're parenting, nobody knows, you do the best you can asking people and parenting articles. And when I was first started parenting, it was blogs was the big thing. I mean, there was no Instagram. My oldest is 12. And, but at the time we had 3 kids. And so I I should have done my own research on statistically for my children's ages, what is most likely to harm them, and let me prioritize my worrying accordingly. I mean, you can do everything you can do and keep your kid in a bubble on the couch. Um, and things just still happen. This is just the fact. We actually live less worried, believe it or not, now, because we know, I mean, we would never have put our kids in danger. And now I feel like I have more control over what I worry about because I block out my husband's actually a physician. I mean, like I said, and so a lot of our friends are physicians, and that's just sort of, but I block out, we don't read the news. I can't let that kind of stuff impact so I actually look at the real data on statistically for my children's age groups. And so for two of my kids right now, the 1 and 2-year-old, drowning by leaps and bounds above everything else, below, but significantly lower, or car wrecks, choking. This is all still true for the past 2 years, but unfortunately drowning has actually increased in the last 2 years because more people are at home. And so often, 80, I think it's 80% of all drowning deaths happen in the 1 to 4-year-old age range in the country. I mean, that is when kids are drowning. And within that statistic, the vast majority, I think it's like the statistic quoted is 70%, but I think it's even more than that, honestly, happens when they're not swimming. And so when I look at, okay, what can I do to keep my kids safe? For my 1 to 4-year-olds, it is drowning. So they know how to roll to float. I mean, both of them. Willow can swim, float, swim. Next up is car seats. They are in the safest car seats, 5-point harness. I mean, like choking. We have a life back. It's like a plunger thing. Again, this is how I feel safer, feeling control over not what noise is telling me I need to worry about with my kids, but like what actually I need to worry about. And for my older two, car wrecks are the number one for them. So we still keep them. My oldest they're 12 and 8. And so, I mean, my 8-year-old's tiny, so she's gonna be in a booster forever. My 12-year-old just got out of hers, believe it or not. I mean, we were pretty strict. I'm like, oh, if the statistics tell me something, then I'm going to stick to it. Second in their age group, of course, is drowning. So they both know, one of the first things we didn't have Willow and Teddy yet after we lost Levi, but I immediately, of course, started researching, and I realized, why haven't I ever heard about survival swim? But I immediately enrolled them in private lessons. This is how I find that it gives me a lot more peace, actually, when I do my own research for statistically for my children's age group, what is most likely to hurt them. And then take action sort of accordingly. So then it's not just this like scattered chaotic disaster in my brain of this and this and this, and I gotta worry about this. And I'm not just, carrying this huge armful of stuff that is really, and of course there are outliers to everything. But you can only do what you can do, and you have to kind of make peace with that. But
yes. And I appreciate that. I think, with social media and the news, there's so many things as moms that we're constantly seeing and reading and hearing about that we could spend 24 hours a day worrying about what will take the life of our children or harm our children. And so I think that's really what our goal is today, is to share, like, heart to heart, mom to mom, parent to parent, what is not being talked about, and it's drowning. Thank you for sharing your story. And
oh my gosh, yes.
And as a mama on a mission, to bring awareness and lower that statistic, what is like the number one thing that you want moms to know?
Oh gosh, I don't. It's not really. I'm just. What I keep thinking, and it's. Hold on, and then a side note, I guess, to something else. But I just keep thinking that sometimes bad things happen, honestly, and um, the worst things can happen, right? But God, and I wish when Levi died that like it meant that like nobody else ever had to die again. Like it was, we will take the sacrifice, for this, but unfortunately that's not the case. And um, But I think that we sort of somehow decided without even realizing it, some subconscious decision we made before that, like, we were just going to be resilient as a family, whatever happened to us. I mean, could we have ever imagined it was this? No. Because within the first, I mean, that first night, even, I mean, it was just immediately, we were so focused on, we will not let this destroy us. We will not let his death have defined what his life also was. But anyways, I know that that's probably not, that's a hard thing to sort of like put into tangible words, of how to carry that. But I think that really specifically regarding Levi's story, like I said about worrying, I would say, first of all, delete your news apps. I did that when I had Teddy. He's a year old now, because I was so anxious. It was making me so anxious all of the time. And I found myself like, what good is it going to do if I know about this thing that's happening in some other country or this or whatever? All it was doing was making me anxious and I couldn't do anything about it. So but maybe that's too harsh for people, but just try to shut out some of the noise. Like, just cut out a little bit of the noise, and you will find more peace when you aren't constantly bombarded with all of these things to worry about. Like, our brains have not evolved with the technology. We are not supposed to know about all of this all of the time, every second. So try to shut out some of the noise, however that looks for you. And then take control over what you worry about with your kids. So really looking at their age groups. For babies under 1, it is sleeping. It is suffocation when they are sleeping, and there are many risk factors for that. And and then you need to just do the research on that. Second to it is I think car wrecks, and then third is bathtubs. But again, with the bathtubs with the babies, it is not what you think. Very rarely is it when they are taking a bath. It's almost always when an older sibling has left water in the tub, or when someone has left water in the tub, and when they got out and a baby reached it, because they just started crawling. So really look at the statistics for your child and say, well, I'm going to take action accordingly. And if that is under 1, safe sleep, always safe. I'm not saying whatever that looks like for your family, but you need to just do the research. Correct car seat, 1 to 4-year-olds. It is drowning. It has been consistently drowning for decades. And then the gap between drowning and the number 2, which is car accidents, is increasing, especially because so many people have been trapped at home, because of some decisions around, the pandemic over the last 2 years. But it is drowning. And so, really talking to parents who have lost a child to drowning, saying, what would you do differently? Because they are all going to tell you, I wish I had known my child would be able to survive in water, and I would have empowered them with that skill. And then for, for 5 to 14, it is car accidents. Make sure they are in the right car seat. And second is drowning. If your children are not strong swimmers, and they don't know how to roll to float, they need to be able to roll on their back too. I saw my older daughter. It was not long after we lost Levi, and I put her in these lessons, and we were swimming somewhere. And of course, I was watching. Even though I know kids don't really drown when they're swimming, I was watching like a hawk, and I saw her in this pool, and she rolled over on her back. And later, she told me, she said, I just started to panic, but I just rolled on my back, like she had learned, regained my composure, and then was able to kind of continue on. So I think that's the best advice I would give, is you're going to enjoy parenting a lot more if you get control over what you can and shut out some of the noise that is constantly in your face. So
Yes. As a mom, thank you so much for being willing to turn your tragedy into triumph by being willing to share with other moms, and so that we can know and we can learn. And I think you and your family and Levi, you're all so special to us, and we're so grateful for the honestly what you've done to help bring about awareness. So thank you for the education. Thank you for sharing. And honestly, we're very, very grateful for you, and we want to support you in any way that we can. So we'll be sure to share those links so moms can know. But honestly, I've done the statistics and everything as well, and you're
Yes.
spot on. So we'll share those links where families can find that for their children and their age groups. And we just are very grateful. So thank you.
Yes. Teach your kids to survive in water. That's all you really need to know right there. Thank you guys. And thank you for listening.